So it's Angela Upshaw. She is the Associate Director of Programs over at the Berkeley Food and Housing Project. She's been there since 2013. She first started as a health coordinator, left, went to Solano County as an education specialist, came back in her current role, and now oversees the Road Home program. So that covers from Sacramento all the way to probably Fremont in different counties. So she's all over. She has a bachelor's degree in public health and also a master's degree in business administration. She is a wonderful individual, and I'm glad to have her here. So I'm going to pass it over to Angela Upshaw, who will be doing our presentation.
Thank you so much, Sean, and thank you for that great introduction. Good morning, everyone. I hope you all are doing well. As Sean mentioned, I'm Angela Upshaw. I currently oversee a lot of the programming at a nonprofit in the city of Berkeley, but we extend, as Sean said, through multiple different counties. And in my role, I've had the honor, I guess, of writing a few grant proposals for our agency. Luckily, they've been successful. So I don't deem myself as an expert. I'm just here to kind of share some of the things that worked for me and for our agency. And hopefully maybe it can work for you if you're interested as well. So we can jump to the next slide. Okay, we have a great quote here by Langston Hughes stating, "To hold fast to dreams, for if dreams die, life is a broken winged bird that cannot fly." And I really do like this quote because you know, if you are working in nonprofit or building your own business, you got to have a vision and a dream. And I don't want folks to feel that it has to be tempered or small. Think big. There's money out there. There's resources out there. Think big. And we just have to figure out how to obtain that. So you can go to the next slide, please. And please also let me know if the sound is not great. I'm in my office and it's sometimes the signal connection is not the best. So just let me know if you can't hear me or anything like that. So this is the agenda we'll be going through today. We'll be covering the purpose of grants and donations. We'll go a little bit into writing a proposal, provide some tips on a successful proposal. There will be tons of resources, and then we'll close the break for the next session. You can move on, please. Next slide. Awesome, thank you. I am curious, I know we don't want to do too many questions because we're short for time, but if you could maybe raise your hand if you have ever written a grant or a proposal before. I'm just curious as to some of the experience. Okay, I see some hands raised there, awesome. Yeah, if you've ever written a grant or a proposal before, or if this is maybe your first time maybe trying to attempt this, would be great to know. Okay, I see a few thumbs up, hands up, cool. So we have a number of folks who are experienced. So I may have some experts in the room. You can feel free to share some advice and tips in the chat if you'd like to. It's more than welcome. So we'll go into the purpose of grants. And I'd like to start off just to kind of do a little discussion and see what you all feel maybe the challenges and barriers. So if you don't mind just putting some information in the chat. And so I'd like to see what you deem are some challenges to writing, to receiving grants, to writing grants, to writing proposals, what some of the barriers are. And then we'll go into what some of the benefits are. So I'm gonna open up the chat. I'd like to hear from you, and that will just start our discussion here. Don't be shy, especially for those of you who have gone through this process. I know I have a ton to share. As you're putting stuff into the chat, I will share the latest grant that I wrote. It was in the middle of COVID. We had just started. It was April of last year. Couldn't believe that it was still going to be due, but I was like, all right, well, we have to try and get this opportunity. And sometimes I'm a procrastinator. So I see someone put in their procrastination. Yes, Norma, that's me. So I waited until the weekend before it was due. That Friday, I blocked out my calendar and knew I was going to spend the entire day just writing this grant. And so I may have gotten up until like 5 p.m., halfway through it, and my computer crashed. And so I forgot to have the automatic save on and lost 90% of my work. So after picking myself up off the floor from crying profusely, I went to bed, got up early the next day, and just went back at it. So another thing is save your work frequently, have auto save on there. But we got it in, and actually was awarded. So I'm seeing some information in the chat. Thank you, Norma. Yes, procrastination, writer's block, absolutely. Sometimes when I sit down to the computer, you kind of have to be in the mindset and ready to write. You can do all the research and preparation, but if your mind's not there, it makes it really difficult. Great feedback. Michelle, you're saying clear outcomes and SMART goals. Absolutely, we are going to get into SMART goals today. So you're right on it. And you have to be clear and concise in what you're looking to write. Joe, you're saying requirements of government grants, particularly the HUD requirements. Absolutely. HUD grants are probably one of the most difficult. They're quite stringent, and there's no wiggle room. Pele is stating where to even begin when writing a proposal and business plan. Absolutely. And so we'll go over that today of just how do you get started. LaDonna, funders, requirements, brain fog, procrastination, and anti-Blackness. Very good. Thank you, LaDonna. We may have you, expel upon that a little bit more. Seeing other things, Jeannie, finding donor orgs that are interested in both seniors and care homes. Yeah. And faith-based approach, absolutely. Sometimes it helps to emphasize the emotional and mental aspect, and the opportunities are slim. Absolutely. Elder Eddie is stating knowing how to find relevant grants and how to put into good wording. Absolutely. We will touch upon that today. Keeping things measurable and obtainable within the grant requirements from Stephanie. Thank you, Stephanie. Absolutely. Okay, so we're having some really good discussion in that chat. Thank you so much. I'll just add a few things that may have been covered. Challenges, they're difficult to obtain. You have to have the capacity to write the proposal. Sometimes they're hard to qualify for, often quite competitive. Could be a long and frustrating process. Sometimes it's hard to communicate and collaborate what your ideas and what you're trying to put into paper, into writing. And determining how much money you need to ask for. Sometimes that's a challenge. You always think, let's go big, but you got to make sure you're able to spend that and really allocate those funds to your cause and your mission. But let's talk about some of the benefits. So, of course, being able to realize your mission, your foundation's dreams and plan, being able to get partners to do the work. First, you have to have a plan and mission, and this is the way to fund that because you can't do anything without the resources to do it. Additional things are your proposal says you are that partner. The biggest thing is that funds are there. So although we said it's really competitive and sometimes a challenge to get, the money is there. And so we don't want to deter you from going after it. If you don't go after it, somebody else is. And so who's to say that you shouldn't be in the running for that? Other things are, you can avoid paying taxes. Private foundations are required annually to pay out at least 5% of the average market value of its net investment assets. And, nonprofit doesn't have to mean non-competitive. Let's see, additional things are, the biggest thing really is grants, that's free money. That's money that you don't have to pay back. You just have to allocate it accordingly to the grant. It helps with visibility and credibility, get your name out there, your vision out there, and grow. And it really helps for steady and plannable income for the future. Okay, anything else you guys want to add to that? All right, I know we were short for time, so we have to move on, but a great discussion and I appreciate everyone's feedback. So you can go to the next slide, please. All righty, so let's get into the purpose of grants and donations. So the most obvious one is you need the funds to fuel the vision and your mission of your work that you're doing. So a grant is one of the government's tools for funding ideas and projects. Oh, sorry. Wait, not yet. I think we're okay. All right, thank you. So a grant is one of the government's tools for funding ideas and projects to provide public service to stimulate the economy and benefit the general public. So that's one of the reasons why the government is looking to put grants out there. They know that nonprofits and smaller organizations are the ones who are on the ground, boots on the ground, grassroots. They're the ones who can actually engage the community and affect change. And so that's why they're putting grants out there for us to do the work that is so important and needed. We'll say that public charity gets its funding from general public, and a private foundation usually has one source of funding, typically an individual, a family, or a corporation. So let's go to the next slide there. That's pretty self-explanatory. Here, we're showing you just a few of the types of grants that are available based on the source of funding. So some of the largest ones are the government-funded grants. So that's like your HUD or the VA, things of like that. You also have foundation grants, which are some of my favorites, because that really goes, as the philanthropy goes really to the mission and the cause, as well as family foundations and private foundations. You have public foundations, community funds, and then corporate funds. So tons of different areas where you can pull resources from for grants. Okay, next slide, please. We'll go into is that the next one? Okay, sorry. How to know if your organization is ready for grants. So this is really a part of that planning stage before you start to look for the grants. You need to know, are we ready for that? Especially if you're in a new organization or a new nonprofit, you need to make sure that you're ready for this next step. Again, it's not the easiest, it is daunting, but it's very, very doable if you prepare and you're ready for it. So you wanna make sure that you can spare the necessary resources to see the entire grant application process through. You'd hate to get started and not be able to finish through that. You'll make sure that you can meet the conditions of the grant. You wanna make sure that you're trying to look for money that doesn't have a lot of strings attached. We'll talk more about that later on, because sometimes that can really hamper what your vision is and the work that you're doing if there's a lot of strings attached to that money. And you want to make sure that when you're looking for grants that it is clearly and closely aligned with your organization's mission and vision statements. You want to make sure that you have a credible reason for needing the funding. And experience with applying for the grant is helpful. If you have some other folks within your agency or your organization that can help you lead and apply for that money is really great to get some either mentorship or some advice. And then you want to make sure that your organization is researching and applying and tracking that grant application without distracting from the primary objective. Okay, you can move on to the next one. All righty, now we get to get into the meat of it, of actually writing a proposal. And so there's really 4 basic steps in doing so. First, you're going to be looking to develop an impactful and a relevant program plan. So that's always number 1. Before you're actually looking for funders, you need to make sure you know what your plan is, what the problem is, what your plan is in addressing that problem. And then you're gonna go into the research and see who's out there, where's the money at, who out of the funders have funds set aside that match your mission and your vision for what you're trying to do, for the problem that you're trying to solve. And then you get into the 3rd step of actually writing a clear and concise proposal based on that funder's guidelines. And so different funders are going to have different guidelines. Some are going to be much more strict and stringent on what needs to be done in that proposal or in that grant. Others are going to give you a little more flexibility and just want to see a more general outline. And then the final step is to submit. And then it doesn't stop there. There has to be follow-up and follow through with that. I do see some hands up, but I'm not sure if that is just from our previous discussion. And I will say maybe just throw any questions that you have in the chat, and then I will try to skim through really quickly so we can have time for that. Okay, next slide, please. So before you sit down and write, as we mentioned, that you need to actually address the problem and how you're going to solve it. So that is making sure that you know what's needed in your community and what's your community concerned about, and how are they affected by the problem, and how you can address the need in the problem. You're going to be looking at hard facts and statistics. You always want to add data. Data is very, very important because you need to back up what your vision and your mission is with something relevant that we can actually tangible and see what is needed. And that's going to provide a really strong proposal for you. Let's see, we can move on to the next one, please, and get into, so this is just providing you some tips and some foundations that are really great to seek funds for, seek grants. So I'm really familiar. I do the grants.gov frequently. Again, theirs is a little more strict on what you can apply for, who's eligible, but there's always tons of funds and grants there you can apply for. The Foundation directory online has a lot of resources, as well as the San Francisco Foundation, awesome opportunities with that foundation. So these are just some resources that you can follow through with. And then we can get, next slide, please. And then we'll get into the types of proposals funders may request. So this is more of a general, of course it's going to be different based on that funder and what they need. Typically, all of them are looking for a letter of intent or a letter of inquiry that you are intending to apply for these funds. You'll see this a lot with a lot of the county funding or fund grants, and they just want to see who's interested. They're casting like a large net to see who's interested in applying for these funds. And then they'll give you a little more time to actually get that full proposal in. And then your letter proposal, a full proposal is usually 5 to 15 pages. Of course, it varies based on the funder. You can submit online through digital form. We see that much more frequently during COVID. I think actually most funders are going to move fully to that. And a part of the proposal is going to be some basic steps that you need to include. One of which is the cover letter, and then a summary, an introduction. You're going to want to clearly outline your problem statement, identifying what your outcomes are, your planned outcomes are once you receive the funding, the methodology and getting there, evaluation budget, and then future funding. So we'll get into detail on the next slide, I believe. Next slide, please. Okay, so writing the proposal, the initial proposal components, as I mentioned, is the cover letter. And this is just stating who you are and why you're submitting this proposal. Oftentimes you would include an executive summary, and that just provides like a synopsis of what you're going to discuss in the proposal. It's always good to include an introduction, which really tells that story of what the problem is and who your agency is and how you're going to address that problem. I do notice when we're looking at more foundational grants, it's really important to highlight that story. They're looking for that connection and really seeing who you are and how you're able to affect change. Okay, we can go to the next one. Next slide, please. Yeah, thanks. So writing the proposal, as you mentioned, you want to be clear, concise, and compelling. Cannot emphasize enough the compelling part. That's what's going to set you apart from the hundreds or thousands of other applicants who are coming through to that funder. You have to make sure that you have a compelling story that's going to really make sure that your application is set aside and noticed. Of course, being clear and concise, that's just the basics, and making sure that someone can understand what you're trying to portray, how you're identifying the problem, and how you're going to address it. Next slide. So you're going to focus on your problem statement. And this one should be pretty easy because we know there's tons of problems out there. You just have to figure out what your agency's mission is and what you're going to be focused on and which problem. In my field, housing and homelessness is the majority of what we do. So we're always focusing on that. Some variations of, talking about housing and homelessness, we're talking about racial equity within that, and making sure that we can keep that lens on it. So just making sure that you are able to clearly identify what your problem is, how you plan on going across solving the problem, and then how you're going to test that you actually did solve that problem. Grantors are looking to see that you have a way to show that the goals are actually met within your proposal. You can go on to the next slide. All right. So the methodology. So that's how we're talking about how you're going to address the needs and outlined in your proposal. You're going to start with an overview of what you're going to do, explaining why you've chosen these methods. And you do want to go into detail and be really specific. You want to avoid generalizations because it's going to just seem too vague and like you don't really know what you're doing. So if you really try to be specific on what sets you apart, your agency apart, what makes you unique, why your approach is different, I'll just share one of the things within our agency that we kind of focus on is street outreach and engagement. And so we notice that a lot of other agencies don't do a lot of boots on the ground outreach and engagement going into encampments. So we highlight that area because that's something that we do really unique and well. So whatever it is that's unique about your agency, add that into detail there. You do want to include the target population that you'll be serving and supporting, and stating, you have to state your outcomes correctly, how much, how many, by when. Again, more details are better. I will caution you to get too much into details if you don't know, because you don't want to corner yourself in saying this is exactly what we're going to do, and then once the funds come and you actually get into the work, you're like, oh, we can't do that. So making sure that you're only stating, you're not overstating, that you're stating what you know you can achieve and accomplish. You'll also include the overall timeline. And most important, or I say most important a lot, one of the other important things is to make sure that it all aligns with the budget. Next slide, please. So going more into just the methods, I won't go into too much detail here. Pretty much what we shared, it's just, making sure you choose that problem, that it's solid, that it's managed, that you're specific and detailed, smart outcomes, and realistic budgets. Okay, you can go to the next slide. All right, evaluation. I'll just skim through this a little bit. We will go into more detail at the clinic next week, but this is really a part of the proposal to share how you are going to document the progress of this, of what you're going to do, the progress of your work, how you're going to share what the outcomes are, how your outcomes are going to be met, and how you're actually going to affect change and make an impact. You want to make sure that you are receiving some feedback from that target population. That's always a benefit, just to show that the work is effective. You're going to talk about data collection and methods and analyses, and how results will be reported. You should also describe how the evaluation results will be used. And this is important because funders like to know how their money is spent, obviously, and that it actually makes a difference and that it's effective. And so this is your opportunity to show that what you're going to do is effective, and this is how you're going to show it. Evaluation is really important because a lot of times this is public funds. You'll have the foundational that's private, but most of the money is public funds, and they need to show that the money is spent appropriately and that it was effective. So this is your opportunity to show that. Next slide. So here's an example of putting it all together. As we mentioned, you have your problem. Here's an example stating many fifth graders at Franklin Elementary School have low literacy rates. There's your problem. You're going to state what the need is. 25% of the fifth graders at Franklin Elementary School need to increase their reading skills beyond the third grade. Simple, right? You're going to share what the outcome is and what your planned outcome. And that's 30% of these fifth graders will increase their reading skills by the second grade level in 6 months. And you see how really specific that is. It's giving you a time frame that it's going to happen, a measurable goal, and then you go into the method of actually achieving that outcome. And that is establishing intensive reading program based on best practices, activities, etc. And so that includes evaluation elements as part of the methodology. And then you go into the process of how you're going to actually implement this program. And then finally, it goes into the program outcomes and the evaluation results. So kind of showing what your outcomes were from the work that you've done. Hopefully you achieved it. So 30% of the fifth graders who read at the third grade level increased their reading skills by 2 grade levels within the 6 months. And then you're showing the evaluation results. So that's just like a quick little example of how you put it all together of the proposal. You can go to the next slide. As I mentioned before, the budget is really important. This is what funders are, if you get past that first stage of them saying, oh, looks like a good proposal. It looks like, a clearly outlined program plan and goal, then you get into the budget and making sure the budget makes sense. So as I mentioned, that you have to make sure that your program aligns with the budget. You want to make sure that everything that you're saying that you need to do within the proposal is clearly outlined in the budget and how you're going to spend those funds. You'll go back through the proposal and tie in relevant personnel and non-personnel expenses. You want to include new costs and ongoing expenses. The budget narrative is really, really important. It really outlines, it puts words to the numbers, so you can actually see where that money's spent and why it needs to be spent on there. That's your opportunity to explain why you need $5,000 in outreach supplies or something like that, and how it's going to be beneficial and impactful and important for the plan. And then you can talk about future funding. Sustainability is really important. Funders want to make sure that they're not just doing a one-off program. They want to make sure that you would be able to sustain and keep going, either through additional funding or through other resources. Okay, you can go to the next one. This is just some help for how you can look for research through funding. Research thoroughly, make sure that you understand the terminology that they say in the notice of funding opportunity. You want to make sure that you define what you do using their terminology. So you want to take some of the words that they say in that notice of funding opportunity, or when they're announcing that the available funds are there, use some of the terminology that they say in that within your proposal. It just shows that you are closely aligned and you understand like the lingo, and being able to really align your mission and your program with the funders. And you want to prepare a list of good prospects, and you need to narrow the list to best matches. So, like I said, writing grants, it's time consuming. So you don't just want to cast a net and just apply for everything. You're going to get exhausted and you may not have the same quality. So you really want to focus on those grants that are really closely aligned to your mission, your goals, and focus on those and do those really, really well. You'll just have more success that way, unless you have the capacity just to write everything. Okay, next slide. Here we're just showing you the order to submit to the funder. So you want to make sure after you submit that you provide a lot of follow-up, that you're contacting them ideally within 2 weeks. They'll usually have a contact person when you're applying for the grant. You want to prepare for a site visit if it's required. Depending on what your application is, they may need to come on site to make sure that everything's up to par, aligned with what you said it was in the proposal. So you prepare for that. You want to be prepared to answer the hard questions. So oftentimes when you are moving on to the next stage of funding, the funder will reach out to you and they'll want to do an interview or a meeting just to hear more about your agency. They'll have some pointed questions. So be prepared for that. And be prepared to shine and make sure you can, really expound upon your application. You do want to keep the funder informed of any changes of your agency, of funding. Make sure that you acknowledge promptly. Anytime they're reaching out to you, respond promptly. That's really important, timeliness. And you should determine proper recognition of the grant and keep the relationship alive. All right, go ahead to the next one. Sorry. Here, we're providing you some examples of grant proposals. So we won't go into that. These slides, I believe, will be available to you later for you to go in and check some applications. And this is always really good, especially if you're new to it, even if you're not. Sometimes it's a good refresher just to see what other agencies have submitted and how you can kind of model that and, of course, tailor it for your agency or your program. Okay, well, let's go into some tips on writing a successful proposal. So, of course, preparation is key. You want to be prepared. Make sure you do your research, know what you're applying for, why you're applying for it. It's good to also look and see what the funder has, what they funded before, what agencies that they've awarded funding to, so you can kind of see, all right, well, this is, what they're focusing on. I will share that sometimes foundations change their focus. Sometimes they may be focused on food in one funding, series or season. And other ones, they may be focused on just housing. So knowing what their focus is and making sure that you can align to that. And that's all a part of the research. Right, with the reviewer in mind, absolutely. So you want to make sure you're including what they're going to be looking for. And oftentimes they're quite explicit in that, this is what they're looking to fund, this is what they're looking for. And so don't ignore that. Make sure that you keep that in mind. Good storytelling is key. Often funders want to hear those really compelling stories of why you deserve this funding, how the work you're already doing is important. Oftentimes when I'm writing grants, I include stories of people that we've served and how we've impacted their lives for the better. So that's always good, kind of having that feel good story and really making it relatable so they can see tangible, like, okay, this is what they're already doing. We're coming in to really enhance that and make sure that they can do it on a larger scale or continue to do it. You want to focus more on the solutions and the problems and how you're going to solve it. It's important to clear the problem, but you don't want that to be the majority of your focus. You want to share how you're going to resolve that problem. And write your grant application clearly and boldly. And remember, the funders are people, absolutely. And that goes back to that story of just being a good storyteller. They're people. Write what's going to relate to them and appeal to them. Follow their directions. I can't stress that enough. I've seen applications be rejected and denied just because they missed a small detail, what they thought was small, but you need to follow the guidelines. The funders will tell you clearly what has to be done, from when it needs to be submitted, the elements that need to be included, follow that to a T. So I'd recommend maybe having an outline of what has to be there and making sure that before you go to submit, you're checking that, double checking it, making sure that you've met all the requirements. And don't underestimate the time it takes to craft a strong proposal. And that goes back to don't procrastinate. Don't do like me. Don't wait until the last minute. Give yourself time, ample time to review and to make sure that it includes everything that you want it to include. Okay, next slide, please. So we also want to highlight the strengths of your program. You want to involve those you've served in the design of your program. Absolutely, making sure you include who the target is. Examples of that is always great if you've done the work already. Include partners. This is really actually important because we can't do this work alone. And funders do like to see that you are able to collaborate and work with others, that you're able to add different agencies within your program, that you're working as a larger community to affect this change. So what I'll include is some of the county partners that we have, other cities, anybody that can help make this help us solve the problem better, because it takes a lot of people. Like I said, it takes a village. So include all the partners that are going to be working with you. Now, they don't have to be subcontractors. It's just showing who you're going to be either referring to or working closely with to really be able to resolve and solve the problem that you've outlined in your proposal. You want to demonstrate that you have designed the most cost-effective solution possible. So that's a part of the budget, making sure that every dollar that you've allocated for each line item is really important and that it's used to the best, most effectively for the proposal. And you want to increase your skills by reading successful grants. So that's from those examples we shared with you, reading through those, seeing, some of the special things that other agencies have put into their grants. It just helps you. So you can't research enough. More information is always better. And then finally, be persistent. Don't stop. So if you don't get awarded the first time, that's nothing. That's a test. You can learn from that, what you need to beef up, what you need to add, and just keep going, never stop. And then also, even within the process, like we mentioned, keeping that follow-up and making sure you're responding and reaching back out to the funder. Next slide, please. All righty, resources, we'll provide you some resources. And again, this will all be sent out to you all. So you can scan through. Just, again, there is tons of funds out there. Don't be discouraged. Apply. That's what the money's for. And again, just, go out there and start writing some grants. What's next? Next slide. What's last? Okay, that's it. I figured that was towards the end. Okay, so we have some time. I think we have some time for questions. Correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, sorry. There are some hands up, so I don't know if people, oh, sorry, okay. So I don't know if people want to unmute and ask their question or if they want to throw it in the chat, and I'll try to look at the chat really quickly. And if there's anything that we went over too quickly, I was trying to be really mindful for time, and I may have, glossed over things quickly, so we can always go back if there's something that needed to be readdressed. So
I would like to ask one question, or just, I'm used to, this is the first time doing one of these online. I'm used to do it in person, and they usually have handouts. Do you have handouts, or is there some way we can get all, you talk beautifully but fast, so is there,
yeah.
So I can answer that. So a couple things. One, there is going to our website, modelbuiltonfaith.org. We will have the slides and all the materials posted there. I'm also going to post, I'm just putting this in the chat now, of a Google Drive. It's a PDF of all the slides for today. My apologies, I was supposed to post it in earlier, so you can follow along if you have any questions, but click that link and you will have a PDF of the slides that are being presented today.
What's the name of your organization that you said we could go to later?
So it's a model built on faith. The website. I'm just show you right now. Let's go through it. So I'm kind of one of those people who like to share everything. So this website here, a model built on faith. I'm going to pop it in the chat again. Is the place to go for pretty much everything. Why is my chat not coming up? Ooh. And so here you'll see for the workshops, materials will be posted on this page. If you need the materials, they're there. And also for any upcoming workshops, this is where you go. Surveys, this is where you go. And so just want to make sure I do that. I'm going to again post it in the chat again for that. All right. Also, I also will be sharing, I also have a doc, Google Doc you can go to. And if you click the link, I'm gonna post it again in the chat. There, you click the chat, it will take you to the link. And I'm gonna share my screen for a second, really quickly. And it should take you here to a Google Doc where it'll show all the slides for today, okay? Cool.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Any other questions?
Sean and Angela, about 15 years ago, David Glover, whom I was very close to, did one of the presentations. At that time, David had suggested that I partner, because we had a rather unique program and it remains unique today, that we partner with someone else and not be the primary grantee. And can I speak with someone about that later? I attempted to reach you before, Mr. Johnson, and I didn't get a response. Can I speak with either of you or both of you later after this broadcast and give you more specifics about what I'm looking for?
I'm going to direct you to Charla, if that's okay with Charla.
Charla? Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, this is Charla. Hi, RF. I'm the one that talked to you on the phone
Several times. How you been?
I'm good. I'm good. I'll give you a call back after the presentation, okay? And then I can find out what you need and we can go from there. How's that?
No problem at all. And Angela, before I leave, are you related to Upshaws? Former Upshaws in Oakland?
Probably.
Oh, okay.
I always say my grandpa was, yeah, he was a very interesting man. So, no, but my family does originate here. So
we can talk about that sometime. I'm very close to both of those guys.
Can I ask a question really quick?
Please do.
He just touched on that partnering or collaborating with other organizations and on funding. And I just was hoping that you guys just briefly cover that, because it's been our experience. We've done that over the years, and several times that unique project has been hijacked. And in particular, we worked on, say, some fish activities and had real unique input from community folks and our elders and build on that. And it's known because we made it a big issue, but it was the institution, UC Davis, that took this project, hijacked it, has access to millions of dollars, and claimed what they got from the community. So it's like, how do we address those issues as we go through these processes, which has been really an important factor for us, but there's been very little support to none in addressing how we maneuver with that.
John, well, I will just address part of that, and I need to look more into what you're mentioning about UC Davis. But as far as partnering with other agencies, like combining your grant application, that is helpful if you have a smaller agency, if you don't have, as much of a an impact if you haven't had as much experience. It's good to bring it together and show that you have a strong collaboration or partnership. But you're saying that you guys did that and UC Davis took the idea?
Yes, they did.
Wow.
And actually, we have track record, and we brought various other organizations along. So it was a collaborative effort in other counties and targeted disadvantaged communities. And UC Davis actually took it. And it was one of their professors, because I actually work with another on other projects that's been very ethical, but you do have those others that are able to do it, and they've never been held accountable. And it happens more often than not, especially with our Black organizations, who many of them have lost their 501c3 and still struggling to address the issues. So I was just hoping we get to touch on that also.
I will add that
I can answer some of that question. Hi, LaDonna, how are you? So it's going to be important for any agency, especially if you are a grassroots nonprofit or a smaller nonprofit, when you are partnering with a larger agency, such as UC Davis, that would be considered a government agency, to have a really good MOU, and also within that MOU or that contract to really understand where the proprietary information and data information will return to, that it'll actually return back to the agency and it won't be the property of UC Davis. And oftentimes when you partner with large agencies like that, you have to really read the fine print in the MOU and the partnership that they're creating. So I would say do that, and then definitely have a legal person look at everything, because you don't have to sign it until there's consensus on both parts.
Thank you, Michelle. That's awesome.
Good morning. I'll second what Michelle is saying. This is Shamari Carter, Executive Director of ACAR. It's absolutely imperative to have an MOU, and to make sure that if you are written into the grant, that you see that grant, and you make sure that you are written into the grant as a partner or whatever role that you have, because that grant is also a legal document. So you can say, hey, this is what's supposed to happen and how it's supposed to happen.
And also a MOU is a memorandum of understanding. So just to make sure folks know, some people also call them agreements. So they are just agreements that people, go into under certain conditions for certain reasons. So, but my thing is, I'm always telling folks to have either a service agreement or a contract. It's more legally binding. And because even now, as I'm writing up some contracts now for folks, I'm holding folks to the contract and vice versa. So that's something. And then also, and I want to make sure we get to at least one more question. Smaller nonprofits may not necessarily be equipped, or may not have the visibility, or may not have to get some of these bigger grants. So I'm encouraging folks to think innovative, think out of the box, think different ways to receive funding streams, to collaborate, to make some noise and get that attention. Because again, it's like 2,800 nonprofits file for grants every day. Only 200 people get them. That's your challenge. It is a competition. It is a struggle, but you got to continue on. And once you get that one, you can most likely get another. So again, continue to press. So one more question before we turn the break.
Real quick, I just want to point us to Ebony. We have two hands raised, Anthony Handy and Rosa Higgs. So I'm not sure if your question's been answered already.
Mine's been answered already. Thank you.
And Rosa?
Yes, my question has been answered. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Ebony.
Thank you, Ebony.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you all being here. I appreciate the experts in the room and providing, their feedback and experience. Yeah, Sean, throw it back to you for break.
All right, thank you so much, Angela, for being with us. We will connect again next week So,
Before we go on break, Sean,
um,
one thing I just want to make sure that everybody's clear on two different things: fiscal sponsorship and partnership, and making sure that we make that distinction when we're talking about working with larger agencies. Occur does offer fiscal sponsorship. That's when a larger agency oversees the grant, and it's not so much a partnership, but might have has the financial responsibility, the reporting responsibility for that grant, oversight of the grant. Or as a partnership, different organizations will have different roles. So there are distinctions there, and in your MOU and in the grant, it should be spelled out there as well. And there are a lot of, it's like Sean was saying, it's competitive, and there are a lot of predatory fiscal sponsors and partnerships out there. And the best way to protect yourself is, like Michelle said, with an MOU.
all right. Thank you, Shamari. So we're gonna have to take a 5-minute break. And when we come back, I'll have some introductions. We'll go into an activity. Also, and we'll pop in the survey. If you haven't introduced yourself, if you please put your name, your organization in the chat as you go to break. We'll be about 5 minutes, so we'll come back at 10:07. Okay, thanks everyone. sorry, we are back. It is 10:07. Hopefully folks have some time to take a walk for a second to kind of relieve themselves, to probably get a snack. So before we start, want to do a couple of different things. And I'm going to stop sharing for a second to kind of put a highlight on something, right? So my apologies, I did not do this in the beginning because I was really thinking about time. Welcome everyone. My name is Sean Johnson. I'm the program director for Occur, for the Model Built on Faith program. So I just want to make sure I highlight some folks in the room because we really appreciate them. First, I want to go to our partner, that is the San Francisco Foundation. Michelle Miles Chambers is here. Again, she chimed in earlier. She will have a section near the end where you can ask a funder. They've been a great partner to us. The FACE program has done a lot of great work with energizing a number of individuals, faith-based organizations throughout the Bay Area. And so again, continue to engage. She's going to talk a little bit more about that later, and figure out how you can, again, be a part. I also want to bring us back to some Occur staff. First, we have the executive director. He was here. That's Shamari Carter. He was the one who really brought up a great point about MOUs. So he is, again, the executive director of Occur. And so it's great to have him here. We also have other Occur staff who are phenomenal, who've been supporting the whole entire thing. One of Charlotte Montgomery, our managing director, who's here. She was the one who jumped on for our preferred, I can't recall the name of, I think it was Mr. Handy? No. Thank you. It's terrible with names. I'm sorry, everyone.
That's okay.
So she is wonderful and great. If you need some additional assistance and support, she is the one to direct you. I'm also going to bring up our MVPs, Davina Gibson, who is on the call, the line. She's an operations specialist. Hopefully I got that right. If I didn't, please correct me. Lee, thank you. I know your position changed lately. Listen, recently. All right. Phenomenal person who's been doing the chat, doing our tech. So really great to have her here. And then Simone Stokes. So Simone, if you are on, to say hello.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
I love that. Hi, everyone. Simone is our, and I'm sorry, for titles I can't recall.
She's our office assistant, so she is providing tech support today. So big thank you, Simone, for being here.
This is her first run with a Model Built on Faith, the workshop series. So I wanted to give her a special embarrassing shout out. So to lighten everything. So thank you all. My apologies for not doing it earlier. Also, if you are new to the workshops, you just popped in after our initial introduction and welcome, please put your name and organization in the chat. If you can, please change your name. I remember how to do it. So basically you have to go to participants, go to more, and there should be an option there to rename yourself. So you can put your name there or your organization in your organization, but we want to make sure that we're capturing everyone who is here, so we can kind of just count you there. Charlie, I don't know if you had anything, you can mute.
Ebony.
Oh, Ebony. Oh, I'm terrible day. Ebony Smith is on the call. She is our program assistant with us. Man, I'm terrible at it. I'm so sorry, everyone. She is here on the call. She's also doing attendance and providing additional support. And it's sad part, I know Ebony for probably almost going like 13, 14 years now. So she's gonna cut me later. So, but thank you all for being here. Thank you all for the support. And so with that, I'm gonna transition this to our next part. Before I transition to our next part, I just also want to talk about one thing. So I'm going to put this in the chat first, and so that you all have it. So you all know that this link is very important. So this link is super important, right? I didn't put it in the chat just for any reason. It is the link to our clinic. So what we are doing clinics the Tuesday after the workshop. So if you have additional questions, you need additional support, be an hour from 6 to 7 with us to go over those questions, go over that presentation really briefly, to ask those questions and to also network. I also got a lot of feedback last cycle around folks just want to connect and network. This is a perfect opportunity to do so if you are available, because it's going to be us and the facilitator and other staff from Occur just providing that support to you. And it's going to be a lot more informal and hopefully a little smaller. But you're all welcome to come. Everybody's welcome to come. And so, yeah, it's going to be Tuesday, March 2nd. From 6 to 7 p.m. Again, that Zoom link will get you in. So remember, I'm gonna put it again in the chat. This Zoom link here is the way you get in. I'm only offering it to folks who actually attend the workshops. If you did not attend the workshop, then you probably won't be able to get here. You won't be get to this clinic. It'll also be an ongoing link. So if you forget, like, hey, I came to that workshop and I forgot to copy that link, for the next time, it's the same link. So you can always use that link to go to those sessions. That is the link specifically designed for the clinics, okay? Cool. And with that, I want to take us to our next portion, our activity. So we're gonna go into some breakout rooms, and I'm gonna give you probably about, let's see if we can do this in 10 minutes. I'll give you 10 minutes, right? But what I want you to do, work as a group, I want you to identify a nonprofit program or organization whose goals, vision, mission, goals that you really like, right? You get extra points if you create your own, if you try to just do something really new and different. And then I want you to go to grants.gov, okay? It's probably one of the more well-known grant sites so to go to. And I want you to find a grant that best aligns with that program, okay? Now, if you cannot find a grant that aligns with that program, I want you to come up with an alternative way of funding that program, right? Think outside the box, right? Is it a GoFundMe? Is it individual donations? Is it a foundation? Is it a corporate donation? There are many different ways to do it, okay? But I want you to get some practice. So I said 12 minutes, I'm gonna do 10 because I want us to have a greater discussion when we come back. So let's get some breakout rooms. Let's look at breakout rooms of, let's do 5. Let's do 5, groups of 5. Davina, you got me?
Yes, I do.
Thank you so much.
We'll be breaking out very shortly.
Cool. Yep. And now we'll bring everybody back around 10. About 10, let's do 10, 17. 10, 17. Cool. All right. Bye, everyone. Also, if you are here, there is, if you're a participant here, there should be a prompt where it will say join. I will encourage you to join if you are in the room. If you are occupied at the moment, totally fine. But yeah.
PowerPoint right there. Okay.
Davina, can you do the broadcast note? Hold on. Can you do a broadcast note with the instructions I put in that?
I did, but the broadcast they have a character limit. So I did do it. I just checked on every chat, every little room, and I gave them the instructions anyway. So
it's cool. It's cool.
Yeah.
We said about 10 minutes. So
10 minutes left. Okay.
No, we do not have 10 minutes left. They had 10 minutes.
Okay. Well, I can broadcast that we have 2 minutes left.
What's the runtime so far on the breakout rooms?
Let me see if they have a time. Give me one moment.
You should have the timer on.
Let me see. I don't know anything about a time. Give me one moment. Let me see if I can find that feature.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I said 20. I think I said 26. So we should be bringing them back now.
Okay.
So people, and it is all practice. I'm not expecting anyone to do everything. It's just practice. It's just getting folks in the use. So, and I'll explain that in a second.
Perfect. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and close the rooms.
Cool. I'm gonna go back to sharing. Sharing is caring. All right.
I was right in the middle of saying something with Shamar and them and got kicked out, but okay. Wait, is it Shamar? Shaman?
Shamari.
Shamari. Oh, okay. Oh, well.
No, so it's fine. I mean, we're here now.
Yeah.
We want to make sure we got have some time to discuss. Then we're going to discuss some more here. I'm going to repeat this kind of throughout while people pop in. The whole point wasn't for all of you to actually do. Hopefully folks got through it. But if folks didn't, it's totally fine. It's just the process. I just want to get folks used to the process. And also thinking outside the box. Again, a lot of nonprofits and a lot of people back. Okay, cool. Some people who are starting off with nonprofits really think that funding is really the thing. That's like, I gotta go for these big grants. And I'm just like, a lot of the smaller nonprofits don't get the bigger grants. That's why it's encouraged to collaborate. That's why it's encouraged to kind of build and do. But also think of alternative ways to bring funding in. I think the number one, from what I recall, my brain's kind of working, is individual donations. That's the number one funding source for a lot of nonprofits, especially within the faith-based community. So, but yeah, all right. So we're all back. How was that? Did you have fun? Again, as I was saying, it wasn't the fact that I wasn't expecting everybody to get everything done. I was expecting more just to kind of have folks get familiar with the process. So how was that process? Who did you pick? What organization did you pick? Did you create something? Did you create your own little nonprofit in your breakout rooms? I'm curious. So
we found it overwhelming.
And I'm gonna stop sharing for a second. I want to make sure everybody sees each other. And just go ahead.
Overwhelming. And we kind of I believe it was one of our Faye perhaps who said that she had felt like she'd really gotten pounded with government grants. So that made me wonder, in your realm of experience, what kind of success have you experienced with government grants?
Coming from a government-funded nonprofit organization. I used to work with the Oakland Housing Authority. So a lot of them, how can I put this? We're a housing authority. We are a name, okay? Despite what people may feel, the Oakland Housing Authority is actually one of the more prominent housing authorities throughout the country. And it's received a number of awards the past 30, 40 years, actually. And it's so grants would come. Mike, and before we even fill out the application. And I want to make sure that's known to people. Those things were worked out by the executive directors and people over in Washington before it was officially up on the site sometimes, right? When it was still a policy. So that's why it's really important to build those relationships with people. That's why it's important to build those coalitions and collaborations. If you are looking for those kinds of funding. Another point that comes up around it, I'm trying to say it so nicely, of there is it's always a lot of politics, and so but yeah, get your name out there, collaborating, understanding that it is complicated and cumbersome. Sometimes it really is about those who are patient, seeking the support. There are some resources out there for folks. If it gets really overwhelming, I will consult. Also, being mindful that it may not be the grant for you, and that's the other piece. And I'm giving a special shout out to Faye because that's my aunt. I'm gonna say Faye is my aunt. Hello, Faye. So a good piece about this is that some government grants may not be the best fit. It may not necessarily align with your organization. That's why I really preference vision, mission, and goals. Anyone else want to add something to that too? Because we totally hope this is a discussion time.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct, Sean. I just want to remind folks that the government coffers are like 50 times larger than the philanthropic sector. And so although those grants are tedious and they're hard, the government is obligated to be that safety net for all the services that we are providing for our community and our community members. And so they oftentimes have these bidders conferences. They provide technical assistance. But also, I want us to kind of get out of the framework of if I don't have a successful grant to be funded, that means that I failed. That's the white supremacy framework. Really, if you don't get a grant, it's an opportunity to learn more and to be able to collaborate with folks and then figure out how to do it right the next time. And then don't forget to remember to call and ask questions, because it could just be something simple. But don't take it as, oh, they're just too hard. The more you work at something, it's just like when we first learned our ABCs. We didn't know them. We didn't know addition. We didn't know subtraction, multiplication. You just have to keep doing it to get better at it.
And if I could add also just a comment, thank you, Michelle, is that while the government grants are particularly difficult, once you're awarded one, you do have assistance and help. For instance, HUD will filter down to the city of Oakland, and it's actually administered through them. And they are open to questions. They will answer any questions that you've got. There's a tremendous amount of help in there. And then you kind of make note of where you succeeded. And then that makes it gives you a little bit of oomph to go after the next one. And as you said, you may fail at the next one, but the help is there, and build on your successes with the government. Those are the hardest ones I have found. Also, to speak to the occur sessions that come on. Charlotte has laughed at me many times, and she said, how many times are you going to take this grant writing class and this proposal writing class? And every time I come into this class, I learn something new. This is not the first time I've done this, but something new is presented. You meet new contacts and form relationships that help you in the future. So I'm going to keep doing how to write a proposal class. And even though I've written several, I've not been granted every one I've written, but it helps. It definitely does. So it's my 2 cents worth there.
Thank you.
And I wanted to add in there with the government grants, don't be intimidated by the fact that, like, for instance, the AIR grant. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. My doorbell's ringing. For instance, the AIR district or the state AIR resources board, their grant was a 75 plus page document that you had to get through. And we as community push back on them to say, hey, your criteria says you fund disadvantaged communities, yet many of our organizations don't have the funders on board to be able to understand this process. So we invited them to come to us and walk us through that process. We pushed back, they laxed up a little bit, and so I just want to say that sometimes you don't want to spend all your energy on it, but sometimes what they're presenting to you becomes more of a burden. And when you point it out to them, they're willing to really work with you to get through that process.
Sure they are.
So Makita had her hand up. I want to make sure we get to your question, Makita.
Yes, hi, I'm Makita, and I've been coming to these classes for as long as when they first started, and I just wanted to say this is that it's at that point I was working at Allen Temple's social ministries program, setting up anger management classes that we got certified by the probation department with, and all of these classes, all of them have led to something fruitful. And I just wanted to say this on behalf of the community. Michelle Miles Chambers is like fruit. Is like fruit. She has always been there. She probably doesn't know me personally, but I know her because I've watched her all of these years. And I just want to say thank you for what you give, especially your feminine presence to the community.
Yes.
So true.
I just wanted to make sure I really preference federal grants, state grants, local grants on a community level. They are different. So local grants are a lot easier to get. And when you go up the chain, they're a lot higher. Michelle, I know you want to add something. Then we'll end on with Lonnie. Michelle, I don't know if you want to add anything.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I don't know if you wanted to add anything. I kind of cut you off. I don't know if you wanted to.
Oh, no. I'm gonna have a few minutes. I'll take that time then. Thanks.
Cool. Lonnie, you have the last minute or so. You have the floor.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I have a question to ask when it comes to your intellectual property. How do you protect your intellectual property? Even if you have an MOU, right? How do you still protect it, your intellectual property? And if your this is my last question, and if your intellectual property is stolen, who can I get to help me resolve that issue? Are there, resources that you guys can provide to assist me in that process? Thank you.
I'm going to open it up to folks on this one. I'm going to talk about the MOUs, the intellectual properties. I haven't really experienced so much in that. It's maybe something I have to look up before the clinic next week. So, but if anybody else wants to chime in on that.
Yeah, when it comes to intellectual property, that really has to be listed in your contract or your MOU that you will maintain all of your intellectual property. So you have to be very specific about that. I know in a lot of contracts and consultant agreements and MOUs, if it's a larger agency, they will have it written into their contract that after the funding is over, that they actually keep the intellectual property. But you can also push back, and I would say you just need to contact someone with some legal advice to help you figure that out.
So what if the agency doesn't want to remove it?
Then you shouldn't do business with them. You just got to walk away.
Yeah.
One part of that, I will say that through the FACE program, we have a team of lawyers and resources that we can connect you into or anyone else into for a number of issues, whether it's an HR issue, whether it's an intellectual property issue. We have a number of resources, and you'll be seeing some lawyers that can come up and give some legal advice coming up in some of these sessions ahead of us.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about a little later what we do have coming up. So I'm encouraging folks to stay on. All right. So thank you all. We're gonna transition. So it's time to ask the
Wait, you
funder.
guys, did you see was that Laura's response?
I'm laughing at that one too.
Oh, what happened? Oh, sorry. So I'm going to transition it over to Terry, and she's going to introduce our next portion of the presentation.
Good morning, everyone. I'd love to introduce our fabulous First Lady Michelle, or as I like to refer to her as future CEO Michelle. She comes from an illustrious background with her grandparents as part of the Oakland Community Organizers for over 40 years, where she began her organizing and educating her community of their rights to demand our government to provide the same services for low-income communities as it has for upper-class communities. Michelle joined the faith program as a lay leader of the Westside Missionary Baptist Church and now leads as the Faith's Senior Program Officer, representing the San Francisco Foundation for over 20 plus years. Michelle serves on the boards of the Sisters of St. Joseph Healthcare Foundation, the Episcopal Impact Fund program, while actively involved in the West Oakland community. She's married for 35 years to Reverend Ken Chambers and the mother of their 4 children and 4 grandchildren. Her motto is, service to others is simply the price we pay for living. Marion Wright Edelman. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you, Terry. Thanks, everyone. Sean, Shamari, Charla, Davina, Ebony, Simone. Did I miss anyone? Angela, thank you guys. And thank you all participants for being here. Before I go into my presentation, I just want to give a big shout out to Terry. She has been a lifesaver to me during this COVID time. She joined us and we went right into COVID. And so we've had a really virtual romance, as I say. I tell Ken, I'm having an affair on you and it's quite lovely. But Terry has been given an opportunity to move higher. And so I'm so very excited and proud for her. And I just want to publicly thank you, Terry, for just putting the wind beneath my wings. And I really appreciate you and love you. So thank you. This will be her last session with us and we'll have a new partner with us. So
thank you, Michelle.
Of course. So next slide, Davina. Thank you, Davina, for helping us out with our slides. So I am the San Francisco Foundation Faith Senior Program Director. And Faith actually was started in 1993. The foundation created Foundation Alliance with Interfaith to Heal Society, really to enhance faith-based organizations to advocate and organize around equitable policies and improve community services in their neighborhoods. We all know that congregations, faith-based institutions are rooted in community. They don't leave community, but programs come and go based on whatever is happening at the government level. So it was very important for us to be able to root ourselves with faith-based congregations. Next slide for me. We we collaborate with many different interfaith circles, and we have a diverse plethora of spiritual pathways as well as different cultures that are involved with faith. We have many different programs, and our premier program is actually our partnership with Occur. I think we're going on our 16th or 17th year with Occur. And so a model built on faith is really an opportunity where we can provide all of the workshops that really is coming from the community. Our community members say we need a proposal writing workshop. And just from this conversation, we know that, hey, we may have to incorporate some type of MOU partnership workshop. So really, it's important for you all to give us your feedback on these programs and these workshops so that we can tailor the workshops based on what your needs are. Not what we think you need, but based on what you need. Community voice is so powerful. We also do civic engagement, and one of our key partners is the Interfaith Movement for Human Integrity, where we actually participate in statewide mandates around reentry programs and those that are within the criminal system as well as immigrant rights. And then every year we provide a small grants program. Some of our previous and current grantees are on the call today. So I want to invite everyone. Our grants always open in the fall. Please visit our website, sff.org, to see when the opportunity comes, when the opportunity is available. Our grants are between $5,000 and $8,000 per year, and we do up to 24 months of granting. So there's one caveat. The grant opportunity is only open to faith-based organizations and congregations. Next slide, please. This is just a highlight of some of our work. We all know that if you don't have a house that's affordable and a place to live, that actually your full ecosystem is kind of off. So the foundation is all in on housing, and Faith is actually going to be all in on housing as well. We do a lot of policy advocacy because we know that we have to change the policy so that it can then come back down to the community, but we also need to give the community voice, and so we fund in a lot of organizing as well. And we also know that homelessness is a big problem, particularly in Alameda County and particularly in Oakland. Oakland has the largest population of homeless communities in Alameda County and actually in the Bay Area region. So we supported a new Interfaith Council of Alameda County. They actually, if you all know anyone that's actually living in their vehicles, they actually provide a safe haven from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. to actually park on the Westside Baptist Church parking lot during that time with the security. And they have facilities, and then on Wednesdays there's shower facilities, and then you can come and clean your clothes as well and receive a hot meal. Next slide. So we all know that we've been sheltering in place almost a year. That has been so hard for me, you guys. I like to be outside. So as a result of that, we really responded to the community. We usually have quarterly meetings. We went to weekly meetings because we wanted to provide the community as many resources without bombarding them with lots of emails. And also we really wanted to hear back from the community around what was going on and what were their needs. So we started that. And then the foundation has a COVID-19 Rapid Response Fund. We have exceeded all of our funding. However, there may be some more funds that are coming through. So if you all have any projects that you're doing specifically around COVID-19 within the community, feel free to send me an email. I'm going to ask Terry to drop my email into the chat. And so far up to date, we have expended $11.8 million within the fund. Next slide for me, please. And then this is just a brief accomplishment on some of the resources that we've provided to community members as a result of COVID. We've done some meditation for nonprofit staff. We partnered with the Warriors during this sheltering in place to get the word out around our census, because we know Census 2020 was very important in regards to the resources that come into our region, the districting that comes into our region. So we wanted to get all of our community members counted. And then we also did an advocacy training with voter advocacy training. They actually do advocacy training across the nation for all nonprofits, but they specifically did one for faith-based organizations and congregations. And then we're concentrating, Faith is part of our leadership team, and we're really concentrating on women of color leaders. And we're doing a deep dive in for elected women of color leaders. We have a precedent of lots of women of color electeds that are within our region. So you guys should know about that as well. Next slide. And then these are just some of the things that we're going to be doing in 2021. We actively want to involve faith leaders in the decision design through servant leadership. So we're actually going to be providing a housing development and capacity training workshop for congregations and faith-based institutions. We are doing a grants report, outcomes, activities, and goal setting training for all of our grantees from our last grant cycle. And then we are doing tools, techniques, and tips to thrive during and after the pandemic. We all know that some of our faith-based institutions and congregations was not prepared to go virtually. So we are going to be doing a deep dive training on workshops to provide them this information. I just want to give you guys a glimpse of kind of who we were as Space and what we're doing. And I am open to any questions that you have for Funder. Bring them on. Thank you, Davina. So you can put your questions in the chat, or you can raise your hand and then they will unmute you, or you can unmute yourself and ask me the questions. Any questions?
We have a question from LaDonna.
And I apologize previously that I didn't raise my hand. I didn't realize people were raising their hands, so I'm so sorry. I just wanted to find out, how do you as a funder determine, or how do you work out the different levels of organizations? For instance, there is frontline, fence line, community-based organizations where the people, as we say, live, work, pray, and play in their community. And then you have the NGOs, which are, in our opinion, non-governmental organizations who pose as community-based. They have the capacity and the relationships. And we both come to you for funding for my community, yet we consistently see that they give the others that funding. And it's not we're crying victim, we're just sharing with you on our end what we're facing. And by the way, I have been doing this work for about 30 years now. So we've kind of seen both ends. We've seen the shifts and the changes. But what we do find is there is a consistent kind of hierarchy where the whites and even Latinos with their organizations, their leadership, they tend to get the larger funding. We'll get some of the funding, but our funding is $5,000 or even say $25,000. Theirs is $850,000 and $1.5 million doing the work that we had to bring to the table. So I just wonder, how do you funders begin to address that?
So that's a great question. And so I just want to say relationship. If you want a deeper relationship with the funder, you have to inform the funder of what's happening. Even if you are not a grantee, if the more we know, the more comfortable I think people feel. And the other thing is push philanthropy. You have noticed these differences. Have a conversation with the program officer there, or the VP of programs there, or the CEO, and say, hey, this is a trend that I've noticed. And so what's really happening? And so I want to say that, you know, anti-Blackness is real, y'all. It's real. And so the sector is aware of it. And so you have people like myself who's inside continuing to push it and say, these are the trends that I see, what's really happening. We need to, you know, we need to be able to influx these resources into the Black community, because folks are there doing the work, like they've been doing the work for so long. So you're not going to always have an organization that's going to be able to grow. Some organizations are going to stay at a grassroots level. Some are going to get to a mid-level, and some are going to get to a higher level. It's just, you know, they may have a grant writer that can write and personify the project and the outcomes better than, you know, more efficient than a grassroots organization. And so for FACE, we actually have community reviewers. Me as staff, I don't make any decisions on what moves forward. All of that comes from the community. And I always remind folks, you know what, this may not be the best written proposal, but what type of work are they doing? Who are they working with? If we need to ask questions, if we need to set up a site visit, then we can do that. We can go deeper. I hope that answered your question. If not, let's have a conversation. My email is in the chat. I'm open to having a conversation with anyone. Next question. Oh, you guys are shy. You're shy this morning. Okay.
I'm Doug Kerner. The organization that I work with as a volunteer recently broke off from the faith-based group that we were a project of. And So I'm wondering if we are still eligible to participate in the faiths organization.
So you were currently part of a faith-based FBO. Now you are no longer an FBO, but you are a project. Do you have a fiscal sponsor? So you're a project of something?
Yeah, I'm sorry. We're our own independent nonprofit. We have our own, you know.
Oh, you have your own 501c3. Okay. So is within your charter or within your mission, are you listed as a religious institution or a faith-based organization?
No.
Oh, well then no, you would not be eligible for faith funding any longer.
Okay.
Yeah, and the reason why faith funding is specifically for faith-based organizations and or congregations is because those organizations actually don't have the same affordability for funding as a regular CBO would have, because of some of the constraints around, you know, individuals and people's perception on funding those particular types of organizations. And I don't know if people know, but if you are a congregation or a church, a mosque, or a temple, the IRS actually looks at you as you receive an automatic 501c3. You don't have to file anything formally. So that's actually on their website.
Right.
Thank you.
Sure.
One more real quick question, if anyone has one.
I see Lonnie's hand is up.
Yes, Lonnie, you have the floor real quick.
Yes, Michelle, real quick. When you said a strong proposal, you know, and little feedback from LaDonna, you said a strong proposal. So what would be a strong proposal? Because when it comes down to them overlooking your proposal, they don't look like us, the individuals. So how do we, you know, put that proposal together, and what is considered a strong proposal? How would it look?
Yeah, that's a deeper question than the 2 minutes I have to answer, Lonnie, so we can have an offline conversation. So what I want to say is a strong proposal is going to be, as Angela outlined in her presentation, that your outcomes, your mission, who you're serving is going to be very clear and concise. You're going to have all of your numbers there, all of your activities. Everything is going to link back up to the mission of the organization. And in some cases that you may not have as strong of a proposal, and that's when, if the program officer or the individual that's in charge of really moving those decisions forward knows the agency and know the type of work that you're doing, then that can make a difference in your proposal moving to the next stage. So I tell folks all the time, if you have information to send the information. If you have an opportunity to have a conversation with faith, I tell folks, you know what, our relationship is going to depend on how far you want it to go. It's not just based on resources that we can give you. It's based on, we have a model built on faith. We do other types of training workshop series. We have our Faith Youth Leadership, our Faith Leadership Council meeting every month. As a matter of fact, our next meeting is March 4th. All of you all are invited to the meeting. I'm going to ask Terry to drop that into the chat as well. So our relationship is an iterative process relationship. And so if funding comes through, I'll give you a prime example. There was some resources for COVID-19 funding. They specifically wanted to move into Black communities and Samoan communities. And so they came to me and said, hey, we have some resources available. Do you know of any faith-based organizations or congregations that's doing X, Y, and Z work? Well, because I knew of some of those organizations, I was able to say, actually, these are the organizations I know. Here is the contact person. This is a write-up of what they're doing currently. Is this okay? So the more information that a program officer is tagged with around your organization, I feel like the more accessible your organization is. And again, relationships matter in the world of philanthropy. And so I would say develop those relationships with those program officers or those entities, as well as at the federal level. So a lot of the federal money trickles actually down to the local level, meaning the city and the county. And so if folks know the type of work that you're doing, then they can move that forward for you.
I'll also add, Michelle, that Faith is beginning a training series, which will be going into a lot of depth and detail in terms of setting up your proposal, setting your goals, your mission, your vision, reporting structures, and everything that you will absolutely need to succeed when applying for an SFF grant. So please, again, I sent an email for S. Stokes at sff.org in the chat. Send her an email if you are interested in being informed of when these training sessions and this training series for 2021 will happen.
Since
Thank
we are
you again
at,
for your time.
thank you everyone, we are at time. There are, and I know Arthur has something in the chat just around, do you provide nonprofit startup assistance? I know, Michelle, you can answer that really quick. I guess that's a really big.
So we used to provide that, but let's talk about that because there may be an opportunity where we can assist you with it, as long as you're a faith-based institution.
Cool. Thank you so much. Great to have everyone here. I don't want to hold you up too much longer. I just want to highlight one thing, and then I will let go of the two things. Davina is super on it. So two things I want to highlight real quick. One, upcoming training. So we have a number of them coming up. Next month, we're going to do a nonprofit leaders, an executive the director level training, but you don't have to be executive director to be a part of the training. It's for any leader, any capacity. So that was going to be next month. Again, we're going to have another clinic in April on the proposal. On proposal writing, so we will review some proposals. We'll help you. We'll have folks there provide that support, and then we go on and on and on. So even with Lonnie's question around intellectual properties, we are going to have a workshop in June, talk about nonprofit law, talk about different contracts, this and that. There might be opportunity to have some folks there. Or July, when we have our one-on-one consultants coming in for the clinic. So again, a lot of great stuff happening, and we're going to top it all off in October with our leadership forum, the end of the year celebration. So please, please, please sign up. Please go to our website, and before you leave, go fill out our survey. Fill the survey. We need the survey. The survey is needed. We put it in the chat so many times. Survey, survey, survey. It gives us immediate feedback on how these workshops are going. It helps us with retooling, redoing, and even bringing in some other subjects and other additions or materials that will help you along your journey. So again, thank you all. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Shamari, Charla, Davina. There's so many names now. There's so many people. Ebony, Simone. Did I get it right? I'm messing up people's names. Simone, Angela, who had to hop off. I know. I'm gonna just give her kudos later. Wonderful to have you all here. Have any questions? Please reach out. And thank you all for coming. And we'll see you Tuesday.
Thank you, Sean, and thank you for everybody coming. Thank you.
Hi, Anna. Thank you. Thanks,
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
It's like an idea. Say bye.
Bye.